Hey guys, this is hopefully the last week that we will be starting inside because I think that I am going to be putting out pretty much everything that I can into the garden this week. And the only reason that I haven't done it sooner is I was actually out of town all last week. And of course, I'm not going to announce that ahead of time, but I haven't been here. I haven't been doing stuff with the garden. And so we're going to get to see kind of how it fared without me here to baby it, especially like the little babies that I planted. So everything here I haven't moved since I left. All my little pepper sprouts, these are my backups. A lot of them are coming up. This is actually my only marigold to sprout out of everything that I planted. And then we've got some baby tomatoes here that I may or may not need to put out. And then down here we've got eggplant, more sweet peppers. These are the ones that look real sad, and the reason that I planted extras. Eggplants are looking like they would just really like to be outside now, please. Hot peppers also, they look incredible, but also I can tell they're in these tiny little cells. They need to have been planted out like a while ago. So we're going to remedy that this week. And then finally, I think this is my turmeric sprouting. Like finally, after 3-4 months, I really wasn't sure it was going to happen, but here it is. So that is very exciting. And I also have a bunch of new basil babies here because my cat insists on digging up my basil. The cat in question innocently staring out the window at the bird feeder. This week at the end of the tour, we are also going to be talking about seasonal insects as our rotating segment this week. And because it is the beginning of all the hot temperatures, there are a lot. So it seems like it has been pretty wet here the past few days. All of these plants out on the stairs, they are alive, but looking not great. Like you can see the tomatoes are still very curled and upset looking. And as we'll see in a minute, I think that the ones in the ground are doing a lot better, which is a really good sign. And it probably means that whatever is affecting them is actually in this soil that they're in, and it's at kind of a low concentration because it affected the tomatoes and not the peppers. Alright, so we're going to start with our arched trellis here. We actually do have some noticeable bean sprouts here. Here's one. There's another one. And they are just growing so fast. I think this one was barely poking out of the ground last week when I looked at it. We do have some missing. There should be 5 along here, and I see 2 growing and 1 that has been eaten down to sticks. And then if we look over here, we have 1 really growing here. And I've seen, I think, a couple others that were totally eaten down to sticks. So I'll probably come back through and replant at least 2 or 3 on each side and kind of see if we can get it rounded out to at least 3 or 4 on each side of this trellis. The strawberries here on the edge are really fluffing up and looking good. They are making their little baby strawberries, and they are also starting to put out runners. And this is why they are here, because I'm hoping they will put out all these runners and start kind of taking over this area. And you can see Bermuda grass coming up in here despite all the mulch. And I'm hoping that the strawberries can do what they did in the berry patch and kind of fight back against this Bermuda grass that literally will not die. So if we take a look at the tomato row, this one right here at the front is a very good example. We can see right here, these are some of the curled leaves that it had when I first planted it in the ground, and you can kind of see here, this leaf looks okay, but not super great, and these ones look really rough. And then if we come up here, we've got some very healthy, normal looking leaves, and that is such a good sign. That tells me this plant did not have a disease it was being affected by an external factor that is now gone. So my theory that some herbicide kind of drifted over somehow from somewhere or was in that dirt that I potted them up in, it seems to be the case. If you haven't heard me talk about herbicide damage yet, then you're going to want to check out this video up here, also linked in the description, where I go over the dangers of certain herbicides that you can find, unfortunately, in products that contain compost. And there's not a lot of good regulation to kind of keep these things out of gardens, and they persist for a really long time. So it's just something that you need to be aware of as a gardener, and if you want to be vigilant, there are ways that you can test for it before you ever have something like this happen to your plants. Over here under the tomato trellis, I do have this one lettuce. This is a romaine, and it is starting to head up, which I think is really nice. It's not fully necessary for me because I don't generally use an entire head of lettuce at a time, but I guess I'm gonna have to start figuring it out because I've got a lot of these that are heading up. So as somebody who eats mostly like small salads, please tell me your best way to use up an entire head of lettuce at once for like one meal or a single person, or something that'll make leftovers, something like that. Down the line here, one of these tomatoes is already so healthy that it is needing to be trellised up, and I just broke off the top here by accident. But that's actually not that big of a deal. This is an indeterminate tomato plant, and so every little offshoot can actually become the new main growing stem with these plants. So that is like a little inconvenient, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make much of a difference in the overall growth of this plant. Next to it is like massive garlic. Like, look at this thing. These are growing so fast. Still kind of a long ways off from harvesting. If you're looking at your garlic and wondering when to harvest it, I do have a whole video talking about that, but basically you're going to want to wait for almost all of the leaves to die back and become brown. We've also got a really healthy, sturdy looking basil right here, one of the ones that my cat did not dig up. Its leaves feel pretty thick, if I'm being honest. I'm not used to basil leaves being this thick, almost succulent-like. So that's kind of interesting, but this is definitely a basil. I think it's also worth noting to you guys some of the size differences I'm seeing. I tend to show you kind of the biggest, healthiest plants, but we've got like this garlic right here, right? This one looks quite large. And then we've got this one right next to it. Obviously same growing conditions. It could have been a smaller clove that I planted. This one also kind of in between these other two. This is normal. This doesn't mean you did anything wrong. This is just kind of how it goes with plants. Some of them do really well and some of them do okay, and often there's nothing you can do about it. There's just genetic variability. There's variability in, like I said, the size of these garlic cloves. And this plant, despite being small, looks healthy. So I'm not very concerned about that at all. Out of all the tomato plants, we do have one or two that seem to have not recovered. This one in particular looks really sad. So I will probably go ahead and plant one of my little babies nearby here. But you can also see it is trying to make little offshoots. So like if I did want to leave this plant in place, it might still recover even now, even though it's taking longer than some of the others. All right, let's move on to the second row, and I will be able to stand in the shade to show you all of this, so that'll be nice. We've got most of the heading lettuces kind of in this area. This is one of the dwarf peas that I planted, which is actually getting kind of big. You can see it's been making little peas for me. I actually don't think there were more than like one or two in the entire garden when I left, so that looks really nice. This is, I think, the perfect size to pull it if I want to eat fresh, the pod and everything. And let's see what else we got here. Fava beans over here. These are getting pretty close to dry bean harvestable. if you want to harvest them smaller, you absolutely can. You just are going to be able to eat the beans kind of fresh and won't be able to dry them for later use. So all along this row I've got garlic and then onions, and then right in here, right before I left, I planted peppers. These are some of my more sad looking sweet pepper starts. I wanted to see if maybe putting them in the ground would help, and they seem to be recovering a little bit, but definitely not on the massive scale that the tomatoes are. So I am glad that I started more, and I will be putting more starts out. I mean, those are still pretty small. I might wait only another week before putting them out. But since it's nice and warm out, I'm sure they will take off so fast in the ground. It looks like some of my onions are already bulbing up. Look at that. That looks great. Look at that one. Wow. Feels a little early to me, but I'd have to go back and check. These onions definitely got planted the soonest because these are the ones I started from my very own seeds that I saved. And these are also the ones that randomly have some red onions, even though I planted seeds from yellow onion specifically. This one even, this is a little pink. That's genetic diversity for you, I guess. That's kind of neat. We've also got random potato in here that I didn't mean to be here, but it grew, so I'm gonna let it grow anyway. More fava beans, and this section is mostly weeds until we get all the way back to the Brussels sprouts that are going to seed. And you can see kind of the varying stages of distress that they are in due to aphid damage. Although I haven't seen aphids on them in a while. I think some ladybugs came through here and kind of cleared them all off. And these plants are actually recovering a little bit, which is kind of crazy. It's a little late for a good harvest, but good to know. And of course we have this massive one right here. This is taller than me now, and it is making its little seed pods. You can see one of them right here. Hopefully these will make some viable seeds for me, because this is a very, very healthy plant. I've always got a budget for a little bit of cat damage. She just likes hanging out where I'm hanging out, and occasionally sits on the plants. Coming into the third row here with the trellises, right here at the front is a volunteer cilantro that I have allowed to grow because I would really like some more coriander seeds. This is all weeds, but we finally have something to look at on this trellis. These are noodle bean sprouts, and they all look so healthy. That is such good news. I'm very excited for the noodle beans, like I am every year. They cover this trellis so fast and they look so pretty. And on this second trellis here, I have technically planted cucumbers and blue butterfly peas, but I have not seen evidence of any of that sprouting just yet. I'm not sure if maybe they would have needed a little more water while I was gone to start sprouting, but currently I'm not seeing anything that looks like either one of those sprouts. And then back here we've got the same onions on the sides, and there's a couple lettuces here in the middle, as well as some very robust looking weeds. And this one back here, that is spinach that has gone to seed. That is pretty excessive, actually. Wow, this got so big so fast. Things going to seed often do that. They are like little bushes, and then as soon as they want to go to seed, they suddenly get tall. It seems like overnight. But I'll try and get some seeds off of this. I'll have to look and see if it'll make viable seeds if there's only one plant, because some plants can do that and some plants can't, and I cannot remember if spinach can. But behind it we also have cute little zinnia and some onion flowers. These are onions I left in the ground specifically to make seeds for me this year, and I always love the onion flowers, how cute and white and puffball they are. And if we peek into this fourth row right here, we can see the poppies are getting very close to flowering, but haven't quite done it yet. And this cauliflower that I showed y'all last time is still starting to flower. I could still probably pull some of these little bits for lunch if I wanted to, but some of them have already opened up into flowers. And this blueberry back here is making berries, which is great. It's a little behind some of the other ones. I wonder if that's because it's getting less sunlight over here. Oh my goodness, look at this bug that's on this top leaf. That is a new bug to me. I don't know what that is. Very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, so as we come down through here, we've definitely got more onions, and these are kind of the healthiest looking fava bean plants that I have. You can see some of the bigger ones all the way down there, and it's still making new ones coming up. So we'll be harvesting fava beans quite soon. Oh my goodness, look at that one. That's a massive fava bean pod right there. We've got another cute little zinnia flower, and you can see this one has already split and is making its second flower, which is lovely. And then we've got more garlic, mostly weeds. These are my path cosmos. They are just starting to flower. You can see more of the little wispy leaves as you go around here. More garlic, another absolutely gorgeous zinnia bloom. Oh look, one of my first candy cane ones. I love the little stripy ones. And then this is looking kind of dead. This is a Romanesco that was going to seed. It did seem to make a few seed pods, so we'll see if we can collect those before we pull it out of the ground. But yeah, all of these in this area just seem to be kind of not thriving. Alright, let's head over to the raised bed section, and we'll start with this pergola right here. On it, I have planted grapes, and I think last week this one hadn't started leafing out yet, and all of a sudden it has leaves. So that's really exciting. These things looked like dead little sticks for so long. I did also plant hardy kiwis in here, and I haven't seen those come up yet. I'm getting a little anxious about it, whether or not they're actually dead, but we'll be patient. We'll keep waiting. It should come up right here when it does. So this first raised bed right here, I planted a stevia that I got from the store. We've got, what is this? Curry plant, whatever the heck that means. A little lemon balm under here starting to fluff out, and the sage just absolutely filled out. It is still in the process of making its flowers, which is really cool, and the parsley has absolutely gone to seed. Let's see, behind it we've got Italian oregano, which is also showing signs of starting to flower. The thyme obviously flowering as well, but like absolutely massive. And I haven't seen yet any evidence of the Mexican tarragon that usually comes back over here, so I might need to plant some more. Very interestingly, that other parsley looks amazing, and this one is just sad, absolutely sad. No clue why, if anything happened to it, because other stuff over here looks great. We've got all these chive flowers that are just absolutely gorgeous. I have not been harvesting nearly as much from this as I should, because it is about to take over. And this hi-ho thyme is starting to fluff out as well. It looks really nice and healthy. We've also got my flowering carrots up here. This flower in particular is about to open. It looks so pretty. And past the carrots is the Greek oregano, which is, I feel like it's grown like a foot since I saw it last time. So big. And this lemon thyme is making the cutest little purple flowers. So pretty. And this stuff smells amazing. Like, I just can't stop with it. So good. This final raised bed here is my purple potato patch, and they look to be coming along quite nicely. I still haven't added any more mulch on top of these, but I think I'll probably try and do that this week when I mow the lawn. These are looking really good, and you can definitely tell they're purple potatoes when those first leaves come up. So we just did this row, and we'll start in on this row. This is the new planter that I have. Haven't had time to make a video about it, obviously, but we've got some little cucumber sprouts in here. So that is all going according to plan. We also have more Italian oregano in here. One surviving calendula that seems to be alive but not necessarily thriving. And a row of onions right here. This is a marshmallow plant, which seems to have been eaten but is sturdy and making new leaves, so that's good. We've also got sweet alyssum right here that is flowering. Oh, and this is my first bean sprout of the area. I planted a lot of bush beans here. Oh, and you can see something is in here that is eating the leaves of my bean sprouts. Ooh, might have to plant some more to make up for that. Plant so many that they can't possibly eat them all is kind of my strategy here. And of course, my asparagus doing their little fern thing. This raised bed was recently planted before I left with sweet potatoes and ube. And I think this one is ube and this one is sweet potato, maybe. I think I kind of split them half and half. Definitely this purple squarish looking stem is the ube. Oh, and you can see some more coming up right there. And all the way at this very last raised bed, these are the Sarpomira potatoes, and silverfish sunning himself on top of one of these leaves. These are indeterminate, so I will need to kind of mound some more mulch on top of these pretty soon. But they all look like they're doing really well. I'm kind of excited to have 2 full beds of potatoes to harvest this year. And then, of course, the number one thing that I am harvesting right now is strawberries. I cannot even describe to you guys how many strawberries there are right now. If we look at this strawberry patch right here, just as soon as we start peeking under, we see strawberries everywhere, ripe, unripe. Like, my guesstimate for this patch has been like, there's got to be like 1,000 strawberries in here. I mean, just look at this one little spot. So many strawberries. And they are all in here at that density. So while I was gone, I had a friend picking strawberries for me, and they got like multiple Tupperware containers full of them. This are blackberries. Looks like I haven't had any ripe blackberries while I've been gone, although the raspberries seem to be a little bit ahead of their expected schedule, and I'm starting to see a little bit of ripening on these guys. I actually pulled yesterday, after I got back, a ripe raspberry out of this area. Oh, and I did want to show you guys over here, this plant got very broken off by some wind a few weeks ago, and this stalk right here, this is entirely new growth. Isn't that neat? So past the berry patch, last week I planted 2 citrus and a fig. This is a kumquat. It is very thorny, and it looks so healthy right now. I'm pretty excited about it. We've got this fig right here, brown turkey fig. It is leafing out and looking really nice as well. And then of course my, what is this, a lime clot or a lemon clot? Lime clot. This looks like it's already been making new leaves, which is exactly what I want to see. Gotta take a shade break. It is really hot out here. It feels like summer. It is still morning, and I already cannot stand to be in the sun for more than a few minutes. Alright, we are venturing out into the sun again. to take a look at some of the insects I'm seeing in my garden this time of year. The most obvious one is this box elder bug. All these little red ones are nymphs. They look kind of scary in like a big crowd like this, but they're not harmful to humans, and they're not even really that harmful to the berries. You can see the redder they are, the younger, and then once they get this black, they're starting to look a little bit more like the adults. And basically, I don't know what to do about these. I've just been kind of leaving it. I'm kind of hoping that the birds decide to come through. Oh, there's a more adult looking one right there. I'm hoping that the birds decide to come through and pick these guys off. They are bright red, which you would think would make it easy for them to see. And it already looks like there's way fewer than there were, so hope the birds are coming through and doing their job. Box elder bugs, as you might have guessed, generally are found on box elder trees, and I do have one of those over in my section of trees near the garden, but when their population gets too big, they often go towards berry patches, which is exactly where I have found them. And most people say they don't tend to cause any damage, and I haven't really seen any damage from them yet. So we'll just kind of let things play out and see how nature solves this problem. Another insect I want to mention that isn't necessarily seasonal, I'm sure you see these around year-round. Oh, come here, little buddy. These are, I call them roly-polies. People call them pill bugs. They generally tend to eat decomposing plant matter. You might find them on your plants and think that they are destroying your plants, but really your plant is already not doing well, and they are coming in and kind of cleaning up the mess. We do have a few yellow jackets in the area. That is what this one is. Out of all the scary looking bee wasp guys, these are the only ones I'm actually afraid of. They will come at you with a vengeance if you get near their nest. They usually nest in the ground, and the story I hear most often is I was mowing my lawn and I got attacked by yellow jackets because you mowed right over their nest. So if you see yellow jackets in your yard, take very careful consideration of where they're nesting. And this is the only bug that I really recommend getting pest control for, because they are bad. They are dangerous to people, especially if you happen to run into them and you don't know that they're there. You can get sent to the hospital about it. So usually I think let the bugs live, let them do their thing, but yellow jackets are dangerous. I guess another bug that I would definitely kill on site would be like black widows, things that can poison humans. They are the only ones who don't get to live. Something else we have this time of year that isn't necessarily an insect, but is kind of categorized the same way because it will eat your plants. This is a snail, and there's a teeny tiny one right there. We've also got some pretty massive slugs around, but they'll be hard to find during the heat of the day. But these guys, they do get into things, but I've never seen them be such a problem that I feel like I have to target them specifically. If you look close in here, you'll be able to see the ants among the pill bugs. A lot of people try to eradicate ants from their garden, but usually they're not doing any harm, and they're actually kind of aerating your soil for you. If an ant colony was in a really bad spot, I would try and relocate them. If they were going to be harmful to humans kind of ants, I might try and eradicate them. Around here we do have those like red velvet ants. They kind of travel solo, and so they're not out here making nests, but I haven't seen them yet this year. Although if you do run into one of those, I've heard that sting is very bad. But yeah, ants in the garden generally, they're a good thing. If they're not in your way, they're not bothering you, and you just like happen to see them like off to the side, just let them be. They are helping. You can always tell when I've been standing in a spot too long, because then I turn around and these guys have just moved to sit right next to me. It is the most adorable thing I have ever seen. If you haven't met my cats before, this one is Kata. She is like, 3 years old as of April. And Mr. Draco, I think, is 11 this month. Very distinguished old man. So the last time we talked about seasonal insects, we were talking a lot about bees and pollinators. And while there's obviously still flowers out and the bees are going to be out here like all summer, the like massive quantity of stuff going out and pollinating has really declined. And that is kind of normal for this time of year. Like, I remember seeing this thyme plant over here just like covered in houseflies, which are pollinators, if you didn't know. And let's see, the big bumblebees, they don't seem to be out at the moment. Honeybees, I'm sure they're around, but like they just kind of fade into the background. They don't get as much in your face. There's not as many of them all the time this time of year. Something else I'm sure a lot of you are seeing this time of year is paper wasps. That is their nest up there. I don't think anybody is home. These guys, I'll admit, they do look pretty scary. I have been afraid of them for a long time, but the more I learn about them and the more I am just around them, the less afraid I am. These guys are really great pollinators. They're also really good, predators in the garden. They are going to be out there eating the bugs that you don't want in your garden. And they are also very gentle. Like, as long as you aren't like actively knocking down their nest or like getting way too close to it where they're getting nervous, they're fine. They're not going to bother you. You can just hang out around them and they're not going to sting you. They might get in your face like any other bug, but I mean, I don't think that like actively seeking out and killing wasps is the thing to do. I think they're highly beneficial to the garden. I've been looking around for a good spider web to show you, and even though I run my face into them like all the time, like when I actually want to show them on camera, they're just not here. But spiders are all over the garden right now. There's little ones on the ground. I see a lot of them. They tend to be black, and they're a little scary looking, but they scurry right away from you. Those, I think, are the type of spiders that hunt via like jumping onto things. There are actual jumping spiders everywhere as well. I see them in my house a lot this time of year, and they are like the cutest little spiders. Like, if you've never seen a jumping spider, like just look them up. They are adorable as far as spider standards go. And I swear, you walk near them in your house and they will kind of do and like look up at you. It's so cute. They're definitely not going to hurt you. Most of the spiders out here, not going to hurt you unless you're finding brown recluses or black widows. I think generally you don't really need to be concerned. It is a little early for the bigger spiders, like the banana spiders that you might be used to seeing. Those are not out yet. But definitely a lot of little baby ones, the little iridescent ones that like to sit in their webs. Those are the ones I keep running my face into. You might already know spiders are amazing for the garden. They're another good predator, and they're going to keep all these bugs that you don't like from overpopulating your garden. Like, they're still going to be there, and they need to be there because you need to feed your spiders, but they're going to keep kind of everything in check. Just kind of a final overall note on insects in your garden. By and large, they are a good thing. I would say don't get too worried when you see insects in your garden. You are cultivating an ecosystem where things want to come in and eat, and other things want to come in and eat those things, and like plants are kind of just the base of that. And you do want to create the base of a thriving ecosystem, because that is how you introduce all of these really good bacteria. This is how you introduce all the good fungi. This is how you kind of keep everything in check naturally without having to use pesticides or fertilizers. Everything needs to be there to work together. So insects in your garden, very good thing. If you see an excess of an insect in your garden, that means it's kind of an unchecked population, like the box elder beetles, bugs that we're seeing. That is an excessive amount of the same bug and is like maybe a cause for concern, but we'll see if it balances itself out, because as you know, bugs make a lot of babies all at once. So sometimes there can be a bit of a boom in their population. And later in the summer we'll see more of that, bugs that kind of come in for a month or two and then leave, and they haven't really caused any specific damage, but they have participated in their little section of the ecosystem. And to wrap up this video, I invite you to take some time to sit or stand in your garden or squat down and look at the ground if you can, and just really look and see what's there. You will see so much life if you just kind of take a moment to like still yourself and look for it. There's so many things here that I can't even show you. They're tiny or they move too fast, but there's lots of life here, and I invite you to use an app to identify the things that you're seeing. Like my favorite is iNaturalist. It's totally free and you can use plants or insects on it. I think it also does fungi. You put in your observation and it will give you really good recommendations on what it thinks that thing is. And that's how I've identified a lot of the weeds and insects in my garden. It also contributes to citizen science around the world, so I think that that's really cool. Anyways, enough from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to catch up on garden tours that you might have missed, I'll leave the playlist up here for you. But until next time, happy gardening.